Welcome back to Tarot by the Bay. I'm David. This is not going to be a tarot reading. This is more going to be an introduction of myself to you, giving you a little bit about my background and how I came in my late 50s to be doing a tarot reading channel on YouTube. And it's good to share this information. You should know who you're dealing with here and kind of know what they're all about. So I grew up in the Bay Area. I grew up in a suburb south of San Francisco. I pretty much lived here my whole life, with a brief exception of about a year and a half when I went to graduate school up in Oregon, and moved back after graduate school back down to the Bay Area, and have been here ever since. Currently, I live in San Ramon with my wife Michelle. Child. I've got notes down here, so if you see me looking down, I'm just looking at my notes here. Okay. So in my childhood, I grew up an Italian family. We were not the quiet family in the neighborhood. A lot of laughter, a lot of shouting in that household. A lot of love too, but things can be difficult at times. I would see TV psychics and stuff like that, and always thought, oh, how cool would it be, to be a psychic? You could just predict everything that's going to come on. There's movies that certainly play that up. Magnum P.I. had a great episode where there was an intuitive on there, and she could see things going on. How about Live and Let Die with James Bond, where you have Solitaire, the tarot card reader. That was really my first introduction to tarot, was watching her with that massive spread. I haven't watched that movie since. It might be interesting to see just how cringy it is now. But at the time, it looked really, really cool. As a kid growing up, there were TV shows that dealt with the occult. In Search Of, I believe, was narrated by Leonard Nimoy. And they would look at stuff like this. And there were a couple of other programs that were along those veins. And it just was really cool. Fascinated by UFOs, fascinated by occult things like that. Just really cool. Right about the time my brother and I have an identical twin brother. I have two sisters as well. But my dad took my brother and I to see a movie called Beyond and Back. Now, as an adult, I've tried watching this movie. I really can't get through it too much. But as a 12 or 13-year-old, this movie was great. And it was a movie that talked about near-death experiences. And I think it covered like 3 or 4 different near-death experiences. Maybe it was more than that, but I do remember a few things about that movie. And it was fascinating, eye-opening. Now, we were raised as Catholics, and you're supposed to believe in God and all that stuff. And I still, to this day, cannot understand why some folks in the Catholic Church, or Christians in general, have a difficult time believing that somebody might die, their soul leaves their body, and then is sent back. Some people, they don't want to talk about that. It's like, isn't that exactly what's supposed to happen? Except that they got sent back instead of going to heaven? Shouldn't that be validating to you? But I digress. Anyways, later on, just as we were graduating high school, had a friend who was telling us about how his dad had a heart attack. And my brother and I proceeded to ask, did he go through, the spirit leave his body, floating around, looking at it, going through a tunnel, having a life review, yada, 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 all the things that we now know as near-death experiences. But mind you, in the late 70s, early 80s, this wasn't exactly something that was being talked about, nor could you research it on the internet because that wasn't a thing. You go to the library card and go to the index cards section and look up index cards, I suppose. But the thing was, when Gary and I described it to him, he was slack-jawed because we had described precisely what his dad had gone through. Later in life, I kicked myself for never talking with my friend's dad to actually get that experience firsthand and get some of the details maybe his son left out. But it was a great validation that, for a moment there, Gary and I felt like the smartest kids in the room because we knew about this experience that nobody else knew about. Parking that at the side, it's kind of why sometimes conspiracy theories resonate so well with people, because they sometimes feel like they're a lot smarter than other people. And maybe in their real life, they're not the sharpest tools, or they're not really kicking butt on the IQ chart there. They don't feel very smart. But when you get a conspiracy theory, and especially if you whisper it into their ear, oh, Lordy. All these smart people think they're so smart. I know something they don't know. back on topic. So as we go into adulthood, I was working in a grocery store. That was the job that I worked with. I worked at. I was a lifeguard, and then left lifeguarding and teaching some lessons, and became a grocery store clerk. Great paying job back in the 80s, mind you. And I met one of the girls I worked with. She was intuitive herself and very much in the spiritual stuff, and so she was the one who started me on this spiritual journey. My first reading I ever had was with this woman, Rosemary, who read the coffee grounds. And she would make like a Turkish coffee or something like that. Now, mind you, I didn't drink coffee, and you couldn't doctor this coffee up, so you had to suffer through a cup of thick black coffee. I didn't start drinking coffee with any regularity until I was 50 or 51 years old. And there's another story that goes along with that. I do drink it now, but it's pretty much iced coffee exclusively. And it's not black. Anyways, Rosemary was great. She was very good at finding things with that, and it really opened me up to the possibilities of somebody actually being able to predict things that were coming up. Elaine also introduced me to a couple of other people that did readings. They were almost exclusively women that did this, and one fellow who did channeling. And it was a really neat experience. I started dating this young woman who was later to become my wife, and she really wasn't into this stuff. She was open-minded a little bit when we first started dating, but as things progressed, she wasn't into it. And one night, I don't remember if I was married or not to her at this point, but I remember one night I had a dream where I was looking at this. It sounds so funny right now. It was a guy with a pencil bar mustache and a top hat, villain straight out of the 1800s or 1900 black and white movies, if you know what I'm talking about. And I was like an infant, and he was doing things with this infant he shouldn't have been doing. And I had the perspective up from the infant. I woke up and I was like, man, if that's what this is, I don't want it. I don't want to have to start seeing children being molested. And soon after that, pretty much whatever intuitive natures I had going on got shut down. And it lasted that way through much of my marriage. Every once in a while, I would have prophetic dreams. That's how I used to get things. It used to spike around the winter solstice and the summer solstice, and but nothing that was ever consistent. And then finally, as I was approaching my 50s, I really felt this pull to start exploring my spiritual side again. And I felt like there was, as around 2014, I felt like there was this huge wave that was going to happen. Now, prior to that, backing up just a little bit to try and be chronological, my dad took ill. He had kidney failure, and he wasn't doing well, and my brother and I were doing things to help mom and dad get bills paid and stuff like that. And because dad was ill, I started opening up a little bit to reading up on near-death experiences, going back all the way to that movie Beyond and Back that my brother and I had seen as tweeners, as it were. And my background, I have a bachelor's degree in molecular biology and a master's degree in biochemistry, and I've been working in the pharmaceutical or biotech companies since 1990, I believe. Yeah, 1990 is when I started. And it's always been in the quality side of things. I do laboratory testing, looking at data, interpreting data, and such. And even now with my job, I'm still working in pharmaceuticals, and I have like 5 direct reports. I read reports, and I'm looking at these reports for content. Are they hitting the things they need to hit? Is the data verifiable? It's a very analytical job. Which some people might, I'm going to get a little field here, which some people might say it's like, you're in the sciences. Science and woo are not this, they're polar opposites. No, they really aren't. they're just spokes on a wheel. And my first wife was not into this stuff at all, and she would think I'm ridiculous for doing what I'm doing. Even though every once in a while I could demonstrate to her something that would cause her to pause because what I predicted happened. But she's the type of person who would just, she couldn't rationalize it, so she would put it in a box and put it in the closet and just not think about it anymore. We all could. I have found, though, that in the sciences, a lot of people are really open-minded to this. We have about 20 people in our group, and everybody in that group knows that I have a YouTube channel and I do tarot card readings. And generally speaking, they're very supportive of it. I imagine the ones who aren't supportive of it just don't bother telling me, because why poop on my parade? But I've done readings for a lot of the folks at work, and one of the most fun ones was this one fellow came and says, this isn't my thing. I really don't believe in this. And it was 3 cards in, and he was just shaking his head like, I don't believe this. I don't believe this. Wow, this is blowing my mind away. And then after that little reading was done, he had a couple more questions, because now he's getting into it. Because like, wait a minute, I didn't think this was real, but what you just told me is exactly what's going to happen. And then it's like, okay, well, what can you tell me about this? And what can you tell me about this? Because he's not dumb. He's going to leverage that tool. He just found a tool. Put your insults in here, please, David the Tool. But that's like, wow, this might give me a lot of insight. And that's kind of my goal. I didn't care he didn't believe in it or not. It wasn't my job to convince him to believe in it. And my job is, here, let me show you what I can do. If it gives you some insight on the situation, you can continue not to believe it. That's fine. But if I gave you some insight and helped you look at something differently, I've done what I wanted to do. I've done what I set out to do. Anyways, I was going back. I do this, bouncing around like a pinball. My dad was not doing well, so I was reading NDEs, and because I wanted to be able to talk to him about end of life. Sometimes I really wonder if I should, look at working in hospice, or there's other programs about people that hold hands with people in hospice once to give family members breaks. That actually does call to me a lot. I haven't followed up on that, but and what I was finding with the data was that all this stuff, I would read story after story after story, and all the data's lining up. They're all going through these same events or similar events. Not everybody goes through all the events, but they're going through similar events. And it didn't matter if they were Catholic or Christian or Muslim or Protestant or atheist or agnostic, if they were black or white. It was the same experiences. The names might change, but the actual experience, there was a pattern, there was a trend there, and my brain is really geared towards looking at patterns and trends. And my job I do now is all about looking at patterns and trends. It's all about that. So when people, again, as an aside, triggers, when people come in with anti-science stuff and anti-vax stuff, call me an idiot. It's like, dude, you have no idea who you're talking about. I am not an idiot. I'm actually a rather intelligent person, and I can look at data. You don't know that because I'm just some dude on the internet. You don't know what my background is. And so it's fine. You don't think I know what I'm talking about, but you also didn't bother asking to find out. You just made assumptions that, and for all I know, the person on the other side of that keyboard is some 14-year-old with self-esteem problems. We all think they're adults and intelligent. Whatever. So I'm seeing all this data that's lining up. And I did talk with my dad a little bit. And my dad did have deathbed visions, as it were. As his blood would get more contaminated, he would start seeing visions of his mother sitting on a couch across the room from him. This is a real common thing. If you ever watch like TikToks on hospice nurse Jenny, I believe, is one of the TikTok accounts. It's a real common thing. I didn't know that at the time, but like the nurse that was working with my dad knew all about it. She knew about that and the death rattles and so on and so forth. So my dad was experiencing that too. And I did talk with Dad what he thought the afterlife might look like and that sort of thing. So, there was some comfort. I was able to talk to him about things like that. And that introduced me to IANS, which is the International Association of Near-Death Studies. And they had talks down in Saratoga, which is southern part of the Bay Area. And, I would go to those talks and they were fascinating. And I remember, I think it was Betty Eady was coming in. You know her from her book. She's, an absolutely amazing book. Was it Blinded by the Light, Embraced by the Light, or something along those lines. Sorry, Betty, I'm forgetting your book title. And with my first wife, I asked her if she would go to that talk with me, because I knew Betty had an amazing experience, and I wanted her to come with me just to see this one. Wouldn't do it. Thought I was a weirdo for doing that. Had no interest in doing that. Actually led to one of the few fights we ever had. And she's with her saying, "Why do I need to do this with you? Why are you trying to drag me to this?" And I was kind of heartbroken. This is a person I was with for 20 years, as a couple for 25, and just being rejected on that front. It was crushing. But the marriage was on its last legs anyways, and this was just giving me more reason to understand that was the case. IANS was great. I got to see all sorts of talks. I got to see a talk by Raymond Moody. Oh my God, he's the one who wrote the book Life After Life. He's the one who really started the whole NDE with his research. He coined that term and brought it to the forefront. Through Raymond Moody, I met Shauna Ristic. She's right now she's a certified massage therapist, but she's also an NDE experiencer. She does body work on me. Her husband Nicola is getting his YouTube channel or his social media up for his spiritual guidance. And I have one of his books, and he has a second one out that I need to pick up. But I was starting to find my people. One other thing I did just around the time I was turning 50 was I took a massage class. I took a Swedish massage class. And what I found when I took this class, and this was over at McKinnon Body Therapy Center in Oakland, is I met some really wonderful, empathic people who were into the woo, and a lot of gays, a lot of lesbians and gay men were going into this. And it's like I found my people, though, because I could talk to them about near-death experiences and psychic experiences, and nobody looked at me cross-eyed like I was some kind of weirdo. Nobody looked at it like, how can you have a science background and believe in this stuff? No judgment, just a loving group of people. And it was fabulous. And then, you'd come home and you'd be judged. Again, it was a great match when we first got married. It was not a great match at the end. I took other classes. I took shiatsu. I took Reiki classes. That was in my wheelhouse. I loved Reiki classes. And I love shiatsu too. And I've done some amazing work on people with shiatsu. And I really do need to go back and take a few more classes. I've not been in the best physical shape of my life, and I really need to get myself a lot healthier, because if I'm in healthy, good shape, it's easier to do the massage. Otherwise, I'm going to be a wreck through those classes. So, no, that's on me. That's my carrot for getting myself back in shape again. Okay, so after I'd taken these massage classes and stuff like that, it got a divorce. I was done with the marriage, and this was early 2016 is when I told my first wife I didn't want to be married to her anymore. And I'd been using intuitives during the years leading up to that, and then afterwards, because I was just trying to get some insight as to why my marriage wasn't working. And then I was using this one woman, Abby O'Neill, as an energy worker, and she was fabulous working with me. I was talking with her weekly, if not every other week, just trying to get myself right through all this. I was in therapy too, but just hitting this thing in a multi-pronged approach. So if you ever do hear me telling people about talking about therapy and stuff like that, please understand it's because I've experienced it, I've used it, and it works for me, and it would probably work for a lot of people. A lot more people need it than utilize it. Part of it might be finances. It's not an inexpensive thing, especially if it's not in network. But during that time, I really started opening up to the intuitive nature. I was no longer in an environment where I was being judged for it, so I was free to explore it, and it was great. That summer, I was in a meetup group, and I ran into a woman that I went to high school with, and we were friends at high school. But now I'm 50 years old. I'm going through a divorce, and things just clicked. It clicked so easily, and it was also predicted by two different people, including Abby, who was my energy worker, saw me hooking up with this person. And that's now that girl ended up being my girlfriend and then my wife. And we've been married for 4 years, and it's been the easiest 4 years. We went through COVID together, and I was in lockdown with my best friend. You couldn't ask for much more than that. But right around that time, 2016, Trump got elected. And the stress started peaking. And I'm going to put my glass on for a second because I have a whole list of people here. I don't want to lose anybody. I remember at that time I was going to websites and YouTube, just trying to find intuitives like, please tell me this isn't going to last. Please tell me this isn't going to last, because the anxiety was real. And in no particular order, but trying to be in a particular order, like one of the first people I ever saw was Lena Rodriguez and her tarot reading. And that led me to the Empress, to Rosie, Psychic Intuitive, Revealing Light Tarot, Psychic Debbie. Cash Peters used to do a thing with Psychic Debbie. He's got his own channel now. Kirsten Langston, which led to Linda G. Melissa Free Range Psychic was a guest on Linda G's and found her through that. Violetta, Dave Johnson, Johnny from Tara's Apprentice, Mel Dorr, Kevin, Matt Frazier, Kim from Intuitive, and there's probably others I've forgotten, but it's a veritable who's who of all the YouTubers who we all watch. And again, I know there's some other ones that aren't on the list just because I simply can't remember their names. I'd watch them for a while and I stopped watching, but it was just an incredible group of people. I took tarot classes from Lena Rodriguez in 2020. It was like February 2020. It was right after COVID was the initial COVID wave was starting, and that was my first introduction to tarot. And I was thinking, I'd been watching tarot readings for 4 years, and it's like, okay, I'm really starting to get a feel for the cards. I had been to tarot readers in the Bay Area at Angel Heart for You. There was another woman who works out of Burlingame who did incredible tarot work. There's a metaphysical shop over in Livermore I got tarot readings from. That was a fun one. Not so much for the reading, but the girl doing it was, she literally was like, she was 18 years old. She really was a girl. She was 18 years old. But the soul inside her, there's this old venerable soul inside her. And this always cracks me up when I see this young person with this old soul inside them. Because like, you don't fool me for a second. I see who you are. You think that I don't recognize you're in this young body. I see you, you old person. You're hiding in there. Get out. It still cracks me up. It's like a game of hide and seek. So yeah, I took classes from Lena, and then that led me to taking some classes about a year or two later with Johnny, Tara's Apprentice. He was doing classes, and Kim from Intuitive was doing classes as well. So I took additional classes just to kind of start expanding things. And my friend Abby, the energy worker, also had classes, and she tends to run them out of Idlewild. I had a reading with Lena, and the reading I had with Lena was interesting because she was talking about my Pluto return. I think it happens when you're 58 years old or something like that. But basically, my Pluto return is happening like this year, and her guidance was that you need to figure out what it is that you're going to be doing with your Pluto return, because if you don't figure it out, that window's going to close, and that window's not going to open again until your early 70s. No pressure, huh? I had no idea what my gift or my spiritual thing was going to be. And it's like, oh, and yeah, and you've got about 2 years to figure it out. Go. No, it was really frustrating. But things worked out. Before Linda G stopped doing readings, I managed to sneak in for a summer 2022 reading with her, and in that reading, she was mentioned that I have the gift. Now, mind you, I've heard this from other readers, but Linda was also saying have the gift, and she was saying, you really should start a YouTube channel, and because that's what she does. She doesn't want to brush her hair when she starts her YouTube channel. And then it's kind of like you drag everybody down with you. So you're not the only one who has to get up and brush your hair before doing your YouTube channel type thing. And so it's like, I'll think about that. And I was doing my tarot readings, and I was doing mostly for myself and for my wife, and, just for fun. And occasionally we do it on Facebook for Facebook friends. But nothing ever really caught fire or anything like that. The readings were great, mind you, but no, if I had more than 5 people watching, that was an amazing Facebook feed. I did reach out to Linda G because I wanted to do a reading for her, and we set something up in the fall of that year, and I did, I think, 1 or 2 readings for her. And she's like, you've got the gift. It's like, you really need to start a YouTube channel. And, once you've got it started, let me know and I'll have you on, and, that should boost your views. And I don't doubt that for a second. Linda G is really a kingmaker in this field, whether you like her or not. And I think most of you do like her, but the reality is, if you, it's kind of like she's like Carson. You get on Linda G's channel and you've got it made. So I finally decided, okay, you know what? I'll pull the trigger. I'll do this. So in December of 2022, I started my YouTube channel, launched a couple of videos, and then just went for it. And I had a little desk lamp down here. This was my light source. And I learned to bounce it off the wall so that it's not glaring in my face, but getting the backlight up. I now have a ring light behind me. As you do videos and look at the quality, what can I do to improve the quality? I've got a Yeti microphone over on this side. I was just using the camera on my laptop. My laptop crashed, so now I've got a remote camera that's working with it. I cranked out 6 or 7 videos. And then I didn't start again until January. I was having a hard Christmas. I just wasn't motivated to do anything around Christmas time. But in January, it's like, okay, let's start. It's new year, new you. Let's start it again. And right around this time, Kevin McCarthy was just getting eaten alive, trying to be get the votes for the House Speaker. So I recorded a video on that, and I sent it to Linda to say, hey, tell me what you think. Well, Linda posted it up on her community page, and my subscription total went from about 8 to 150 within 3 or 4 days. So that was the first real big push that got me going. And that was fantastic. It went from 1 or 2 views to now getting double-digit views. Hey, we're getting somewhere. And then Johnny came across one of my videos, and he pumped it up on his channel. And then my viewers went from 150 to 200 to 400 to 500 really quickly. And it's those boosts that I got from Linda, that boosts I got from Johnny, that really helped get this channel rolling and getting it onto people's radars, as it were. Somewhere right about the time I was creeping on like 1,000 subscribers, Sherry from Voices of the Swamp reached out to me. She had recently, subscribed to my channel and liked my videos and wanted to do a collaboration. It's like, cool. So I watched a couple of her videos just to make sure I wasn't, getting ambushed in Trump territory or something along those lines. And that was the first live or the first collab that I did. And, it was great because that introduced Sherry's viewers to me and to my channel. And again, it helps the channel grow. And there's like a group of women that work with Sherry, and like Marina and Amy and Val and others, and I've been invited onto their shows and I've done collabs with them. I still haven't done with Val yet. Val's wanted to do one, but it's like 2, 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and I work. I can't. I got 5 direct reports. I can't just bug out of work to go do this. I mean, I could, but that they need me. I'm often reached out to for guidance, and I can't really take an hour off to be doing this. Maybe one day when I retire, I can do more of that. But for now, it's got to be. I can't do collabs between 8 and 5 Monday through Fridays Pacific time. Let's see. Oh yeah. So and I like doing collabs. I'm an extrovert. I really get a lot of energy off of other people, and the bantering and back and forth. My sense of humor and snarkiness gets amped up. I turn it up to 12 typically, a little bit calmer. Which is pretty much what you see is what you get with me on YouTube. Except that as when I'm off YouTube and I'm amongst familiar company, I'm a little bit snarkier and a little bit more me. I tone it down a little bit for YouTube because I don't want to really trample people with the full effect of my personality, as it were. But pretty much what you see is pretty much who I am. One of the things that I was telling you, I was having a hard Christmas. I was just really depressed. I was so done with this world. And when I started doing the readings, I felt better. And whenever I start getting depressed, I do readings and I feel better. So I really do get a spiritual recharge with this. And my work can be very overwhelming. The company I work for is one of the most difficult places. It's one of the most intense places to work at, and it has quite the reputation in the Bay Area for a pharmaceutical company. And work can really get me down. And then after work, I'll do a video or two, and I'm pumped up again. If I do lots of videos, I can really wear myself out. I do try to fill up with light and do protective things like that. But sometimes I'm in a role and I don't want to stop. And I'll record videos and I'll schedule them for the next couple of days, so I have a constant stream of content coming out. I found early on I'd make 4 videos, I'd post all 4 videos up. Now if I make 4 videos, I might post 2 up that day and then 2 the next day. So that, I can take a night off if I need to, or I could do 1 video the next day and 1 video the day after that, and then have 2 more videos coming on. If I put up like 8 videos in one day, there's no guarantee everybody's going to watch all of them. You're kind of swamping them with it. So I'm trying to meter out those readings. And a lot of the readings I meter out are ones that aren't time urgent. Like I did, one of the ones I metered out today was the head of the Secret Service and deleting of text. I had recorded that one 2 or 3 days ago. But there wasn't an urgency in getting that one done, so I could schedule it to come out on Sunday. And it wasn't going to be a big deal. I did one on Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, and that's coming out tomorrow. That's going to come out on Monday, and that one's been recorded for 4 or 5 days. But they're cage matches and happening anytime soon, so there's no rush to get out there. There was a lot of Supreme Court stuff that came out that I wanted to get recorded. I was going to meter that out too, but the collective, the intuitive feeling, the collective feeling I got was people needed to hear about it right then and there. So I ended up releasing a bunch of those videos all at once. And, again, I'm trying to give insight to people. One of my gifts that I do have is I have this great ability to calm things down. Abby was the first one to ever mention that, and it's true. Ever since I was a little kid, if people were fighting, I would try and be a peacemaker. I would try to take the temperature down a little bit, and Trump was a master of bringing everything up to a boil, and I kind of wish I had started this YouTube channel back in 2016, but I wasn't doing tarot. I hadn't done tarot cards. I hadn't taken any lessons. I wasn't ready for that one. But it probably would have been helpful if I could have been there to help, Linda and Lena and others try and take the temperature, take the edge off a little bit there. But yeah, I'm doing it now, and I have I tend to be a very nice and kind person. I think you can be both. Kind is obviously the preferred thing, but I try to be very nice when I'm being kind. There's no sense in being kind and being an asshole if you can just be kind and be nice with it. For those of you who don't understand the difference, nice is when you see a mother with 4 kids in a shopping cart trying to, get the groceries in the back of the cart while the kids are all running around and, trying to make sure that nobody's getting run over by a car or anything along those lines. A nice person says, "You're doing well, Mom. You got this." A kind person comes over and maybe stops the car or gives her a hand putting the grocery bags in while she's trying to put the kids in the car. So you're actually helping. The East Coast version of that is nice as you see somebody freezing and tell them, "Hey, you're almost home. You'll make it through there. You'll tough this out." Kind is, "You hockey puck, what the heck is wrong with you?" as you're taking off your sweater and putting it around them. What kind of idiot are you to go out in the cold like this without a sweater? Come on, wisen up. They insult you, but then they're doing something to address your thing. You can be nice and kind at the same time. Rock and roll. And I use humor a lot. Humor is my sword and my shield. It's my way of attacking things and knocking it down, and it takes a little bit of the edge off when you can laugh at it. It's also my shield. Like if somebody's attacking me, I'll use humor to try and de-escalate a situation. And I'm like that in real life as well. It's and I'm pretty quick-witted. Not trying to boast, but it's just you develop a talent over time with that stuff. Not always fast enough, but it works. It works, and snarkiness helps. But the snarkiness usually is reserved for the people who are close to me, because I don't want to be considered an asshole. And if you're snarky, you can be considered a jerk for doing that, which is why you have to know your audience so that they appreciate who you are without assuming you to be something that you're not. I guess lastly, I do want to say thank you for everybody who watches my videos. I never saw myself doing this. Never in a million years did I see myself doing this. And this journey really started about 2014 or so, but it really started accelerating at the end of 2022. We're only 6 full months into 2023, and I've been doing this now for 7 months, and my channel's grown a lot in that time. I'm actually really impressed with it. And it gives me hope that I can continue growing this channel, continue doing videos for everybody. My channel's not big enough yet that I can't answer questions. It just takes a while. And so on the weekends, I have a much better chance of answering comments. And I do try to, I try to heart all the comments to let people know I've read them. And I often try to respond to them when I can. There might be a point where this channel grows so much I just plain can't do it. But understand it's not due to lack of desire. It's just resources at that point. But I do hope you enjoy the videos that you're watching. I try to, as I get ready to wrap up here, my background, I was raised Catholic in a very conservative Republican household. And my politics started off very conservative Republican. They've evolved over the years. Republican Party pretty much left me in the dust in the mid-90s. I didn't change my affiliation until Trump ran, but I kept hoping the Republican Party would come back to being just fiscally conservative as opposed to this crazy whack family values crap. Where the hell I don't need your moral guidance. I just want to make sure that we have a strong military and we're paying our bills. That's pretty much the two things that I was interested in with the Republican Party. What I come to find out is they're very interested in the strong military complex. And paying bills is for suckers. They're worse at spending the money than the Democrats, who they vilify for that. I've gotten a lot more compassionate, a lot more empathetic as I've gotten older. I've understand, and I guess my philosophy is that for people who are wealthier and have more power, more should be expected of them. There's a higher bar for them. And no, lowering taxes on the wealthy? No. For the longest time, I would say it should not be a crime to be wealthy in the United States. And I still believe that. But now I temper that with, but to be wealthy in the United States also means you have more responsibility for helping out with social programs and such. I'm not suggesting you tax the wealthy at 90%, but their effective tax rate that they're paying should be higher than mine. Should be higher than a school teacher. Corporations, why are they getting off easy, man? They are absolutely railroading us. Start making them pay their fair share, and all of a sudden, all these things that we can't afford, we'll probably be able to afford them, and life's going to get a lot easier for people. And I look forward to the day that I'm the conservative that just can't keep up with the progressives. Because if the day comes where I'm just too stodgy and can't keep up with the changes that the young people want to make and see that, our society should be in really good shape at that point. Because that means there's going to be universal health care and free universities and programs to help marginalized people. Probably we have reparations that have already occurred. Just all this wild stuff that causes the right wing to have a brain cramp. But, ultimately, I believe fair is fair. And a lot of people have not been treated fairly. And they need to be treated fairly. If we're ever, I'd love to see a day where we don't have affirmative action. And I don't mean by the Supreme Court overturning it just recently. But I mean when we really don't need it because it's not an issue anymore. Skin tone isn't an issue. Ethnicity isn't an issue. Socioeconomic status on the ladder isn't an issue. I don't know if we'll ever get there, but until we get there, we need programs to help to level the playing field and give motivated people a fighting chance at having a successful life. However they want to define sex, whatever success, not sex, success. There's a Freudian slip. Hello. Where's that Justin Trudeau video I just put up? I want everybody to be as successful as they want to be. I have a son and daughter. I don't judge them against each other. I don't compare them because they have different gifts. They have different talents. And to compare my son's success to my daughter's and my daughter's to my son is completely and utterly unfair to them. I have some family members that could stand to learn that. We're all here, spirits in these flesh suits of ours, trying to have a spiritual journey in a material world. It's not easy. Anything we can do to make it easier on each other is going to be appreciated by everybody. They say a rising tide raises all ships. Absolutely true. So I'll do what I can do to raise all ships. Do note that, occasionally I get some nasty comments in my comment section. I typically don't attack back. If they're not insulting me, I'll try and engage them. If they insult me, they just get deleted and blocked. If I engage them and they're willing to talk with me and be reasonable, then they get to stay. If they talk with me but they continue to be unreasonable, I give them a couple chances. I give them more rope than they deserve, at least from my wife's point of view. But I'm willing to give somebody a chance Because how much better is it now? I can preach to the choir and make this an echo chamber, but how much better is if I can bring somebody else in who looks at this and says, oh, you guys are a bunch of idiots. And then you start introducing them to stuff, and then they realize, oh, I totally judged you guys, and this is not what I thought it was going to be. This is actually better. Because now you're expanding. You're bringing people into the collective. You're expanding the group. I'm not trying to run a cult here. I'm just trying to get people to get out of their fear and open up their minds. That's all. All right. Thank you for putting up with me for 45 minutes. Long video. Maybe there'll be some other videos that follow this up. If you have specific questions, I could do that. I didn't expect this to be this long. I thought it was going to be a 10-minute video. I just ramble. All right. But thank you, everyone. Thank you for watching. Hope this gives you some insight as to who I am, why I'm doing it, what I hope to get out of all this. And again, I really do appreciate all the support and love that I've felt from you all. Have a great one. I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.